When you're remaking reality from scratch while bleeding to death and trying to stop two realms from annihilating each other, you stop being just a protagonist anymore. Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to deep dive into chapter 524 of The Beginning After the End, titled The Rise of the Relic Tombs. This chapter might be slightly shorter in length, but it's dense with layered lore, metaphysical stakes, and world-shifting consequences. If you appreciate this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Now the chapter opens up with Arthur in a state that can only be described as physically annihilated. His mana channels are ruptured, his skin is literally weeping blood, his bones are fractured, his body's failing in every conceivable level, but that doesn't matter because Arthur isn't in his body anymore. Not really. He's holding himself together with sheer willpower, using King's Gambit to the fullest extent he can, keeping one fragile thread of consciousness aware of the pain while isolating the rest of his mind, maintaining complete focus. That's how much pressure he's under. The flood of ether released by the destruction of his fourth core layer is overwhelming. His three remaining layers are straining to contain it. His god runes are all engaged in terrifyingly complex operations, fusing the relic tunes and reality simultaneously, guiding the descent of Ephiates. Thanks to Giai's knowledge through the link between Arthur and Tessia, Arthur received all necessary information like the shape of Ephiates, the relic tombs. He understood the necessary physics, thermodynamics, special expansion and contractions, the weave of time, warm thrumming of the lives of everyone, everything necessary. He's treating the relic tombs in Tegrin Kalem like cosmic Lego pieces, using spatium to reshape space, destruction to burn away anything unnecessary, and Aroa's Requiem to knit old and new together like a metaphysical architect working in 4 dimensions. Inside the portal, the relic tombs begin to manifest the physical world. Entire buildings are dragged in, crumbling under gravitational stress, only to reassemble into new forms dictated by Arthur's mental blueprint. Streets rip through space, courtyards collapse and fold. People, hundreds of them, are pulled through, protected only by the hastily woven cocoon of space-time. These aren't soldiers or fighters anymore, they're basically refugees, ordinary people caught in the middle of a metaphysical relocation. And Arthur is balancing all of this while his internal organs are liquefying. He's coughing up blood. Tessia is desperately trying to support him even though her own body is cracking under the strain. She's bleeding from the nose, her hands are soaked in Arthur's blood, but they refuse to let go. King's Gambit is keeping Arthur's focus laser sharp, but the price is enormous. The act of trying to save everyone when there's no time to evacuate or clear the relic tombs puts Arthur in a constant risk of failure. He compares it to threading peas through a blender. Every second counts, every misstep could kill hundreds of people. And just when Arthur thinks he can hold everything together, another crisis hits. Too much of Ephiates has pushed through the wound and reality without enough support. The ancient godlike continent starts to destabilize, the structure holding it in place isn't complete, and the weight of it starts to crush the gap between dimensions. Sylvie, sensing the urgency, tries to help. She uses her Aven arts to slow time itself and give Arthur much needed extra seconds, but something stops her, something stronger than her. The spell collapses under pressure from an external force. That's when Arthur senses it. That something is massive and is descending, described as a storm of ether and mana. And that storm has a name. It's Lady Meyer, arriving like a divine judgment, her voice booming across the sky as she demands to know the fate of Kezis. She asked if he died by the hands of Agrona. Arthur tells her the truth, that he's the one that killed Kezis. Meyer, heartbroken and furious, not because she didn't see this coming, but because it validates her worst fear. She gave Arthur knowledge, trust, access to sacred places, and all for that so he could kill their leader. More importantly, she never asked why. It's Sylvie who steps in here, pleading with her grandmother, reminding Meyer that the greater cost, if they fail now, everyone dies. Kezis will die for nothing. Meyer hesitates, but then she steps aside. Arthur continues pulling through the relic tombs, and we see the cost of his power mounting on everyone. Tessia, whose body is acting as a conduit for Giai's knowledge and insights, is being internally scorched. Giai warns Arthur that her brain is being burned alive by the sheer amount of metaphysical information she's trying to hold. Her mana is strong, but not her nervous system, and it is breaking down. Despite that, Tessia insists that she's fine barely holding herself upright. Even Regis is snarky and stubborn, is suffering. He jokes, sarcastically thanking Arthur, but his mind is barely holding on, straining under the pressure of King's Gambit and the flood of ether. Meyer, watching all of this, finally makes her decision. She transforms her humanoid body, stretches, expands, and transforms into her true form, the ancient white dragon, majestic and terrifying. Golden runes glow down her scaled body, and then, in an echo of Sylvia's sacrifice years ago, she pierces through Arthur's core. But this time, Arthur welcomes it and lets her in. And in doing so, he shatters the third layer of his core, releasing even more ether. His body, riddled with open wounds from the last rupture, allows the energy to bypass his destroyed channels. Meyer's will, now embedded in Arthur's remaining core layers, becomes another divine flame he can wield. Unlike Sylvia, Meyer does not collapse after transferring her will. With Meyer's will inside Arthur, Arthur unlocks a new layer of perception. He begins to feel the force of every person around him. Thousands of them, each pulse, breath, all connected through the golden runes now laced into his relic armor. He senses Tessia's failing synapses and nerves and begins actively guiding ether to repair her from within, targeting micro tears in her brain, regulating the stress burning through her body. Meanwhile, the entire second level of the relic tombs finishes emerging. Buildings begin flooding through, including the Grand Bell State, which is jam-packed with more refugees. And then the ether surges again. Tearing at the edges of the portal, the void trembles, and Arthur sees it. At last, the presence behind everything, all of the scenes, steps into the light. Fate itself, appearing as a being of golden threads, its form hidden in the sun, it speaks to Arthur not as a villain but as just as an observer, and says to Arthur, "Your performance has met expectations." Arthur realizes the truth: the river of ether tearing reality apart, that's fate pushing from the other side. Fate tells him that Agrona may have started this, but Arthur finished it. The barrier is broken, ether can now flood the world freely. But the cost of it is one small world, their world. Arthur tries to appeal to the part of fate that was once human, the part composed of every voice, every mind that ever lived. Surely, he says, some desire to protect the world must still exist. Fate doesn't even blink, just replies by saying, no. And that is how the chapter ends. This chapter pushes us into uncharted territory. Fate has arrived, the world is crackling, and Arthur patched it together with willpower and borrowed godhood. It's the only thing left keeping the universe from imploding. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? Arthur can defy fate? Do you think Meyer's sacrifice was enough to turn the tides?